It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
All right, my friends, I want to ask all of you a question, okay? How many of you know the 10 Commandments? How many of you could read the 10 Commandments or know them? I know you can read them, but how many of you know the 10 Commandments? Now, here's another interesting question. How can the 10 Commandments improve your health? Well, I was talking to my good friend who was on the show today, no stranger to SSP TV, Dr. Benyo, and we were having a discussion, and he says, you know, Sam, I'd like to talk sometime on your show about the 10 Commandments and how they can improve your health. And I said, what, Philip? He said, yes. He said, they can improve your health. Well, Dr. Benyo, we're here today, and everyone wants to improve their health, and interesting to know that, you know, when you said about the 10 Commandments, I immediately start saying the 10 Commandments, and I missed maybe one or two, which I shouldn't, and maybe not in that order, but, you know, basically, you really don't, how many people really know the 10 Commandments? You know them offhand?
No, I didn't until I researched it. And by the way, Sam, it's always a pleasure to come here and help you boost your ratings. It's really a pleasure.
You know, it's funny you should say that because, you know, we're not in a Nielsen rating book, as you know, but the point is that we do surveys. And most especially is you know the fact that when you go around people, what do they say? I mean, they see you all the time.
Absolutely.
Okay? But your show, okay, and Dr. Kislin's show, and Feeling Good, of course, the girls in the Sam Lesante shows are still #1, and when they don't become #1, you know. But no, your ratings every year they go up. Now that we're HD at 513, it's interesting. And you and your wife and your son do a great job, seriously.
Thank you.
But thanks for improving my ratings. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Now let's get back to the subject matter.
Right, you know, Sam, I bet if you went out like the man on the street with a camera and a microphone and asked 10 people to name a couple of the commandments, I'm not so sure we'd get through, you know, don't steal and don't kill someone. And we have rules in life. We have speed limits. We have guide rails to keep us on a road when we're driving our car. And without sounding too Bible-beating, the 10 Commandments were put there to keep us on the road of life. And believe it or not, there's some health aspects to that as well.
Let's talk about them. Let's talk about the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me.
Well, I kind of turn that around. I don't try to make it as negative as thou shalt not. I turn it around and say...
You want to redo the 10 Commandments.
We're going to redo
Only
the 10
a
Commandments.
doctor can do this, folks. Okay.
I would say you should believe in a creator. You should believe in a higher power. And the studies have shown that people who do have spirituality in their life are healthier as a group. And not only that, Sam, but when the chips are down and they become ill or there's a crisis in life, having that belief in a creator, a spirituality to fall back on, that often wins the day, often.
So when you're looking at you know, the first commandment, you shall not have other gods before me. Some people, because the world seems to be becoming more secular, okay, and turning away from, I think some people, you know, because they're living so good. And that's just sometimes a problem. You live so good, you forget who needs God, who has to go to church anymore. You know, I pray at home and all this other kind of stuff. It's sometimes a little sad, isn't it?
Well, I think because we were blessed with such a charmed life growing up. I mean, when you recall the good old days, they truly were the good old days. You had corner grocery stores, you had neighborhoods, you had people who ate supper at night together, you went to church. It was just a calmer time, if you will, a calmer time.
Isn't it the truth? Second one, you shall make no idols.
Well, I think that some people go through life always looking in the rearview mirror, Sam, and they instead of recognizing their own blessings and what they have in life, they're putting other false gods, money, fame, fortune, ahead of the things that are just basic in life. You know, you should be kind of happy with what you have.
How do you, you know, and the way the world is going today, you know, everyone wants to make more money, have better cars, have better homes, etc., which is not a bad thing to look for. But where does that stop when you're placing that in front of, you know, your spirituality, your creator, okay, and that's becoming your God versus the creator himself?
No doubt. And you know, in today's society, look how the families tend to break up because two people have to work. Who's at home watching the kids? What are the kids doing? And again, it goes back to when you went home after school, mom was there making supper. And unfortunately, that's far and few between in today's society.
Father Peyton. Remember Father Peyton?
Yes, absolutely.
Father Peyton's, and this applies to not only Catholics, but anyone. A family who prays together stays together. And sometimes you're talking about the commandments being improving for health. When you have stress in your life, as you know as a medical doctor, it takes something from your health. But when you pray, if you're having a difficulty in the family, maybe prayer sometimes softens things. You know, when you go to Mass or church or any Protestant or whatever, and there's sermons there, sometimes it sinks in, you know.
Well, transcendental meditation. I mean, people who meditate and do yoga, they often relax and lower their blood pressure and their pulse. And that leads us to the third commandment, don't take the Lord's name in vain. Well, I view that as anger management. So many people out there are, Sam, they're angry. I don't know where the anger's coming from. Just drive on the road, for example. How many headlights you see in your rearview mirror where they're actually kissing your car, people driving with their hair on fire? What's the hurry? What's the anger out there? And so that's kind of how I wonder about where we're headed as a society. People are angry. I'm not sure why.
Could it be well, we have everyday pressures, okay? And sometimes, you know, we bring a magnifying glass and stuff and increase that pressure sometimes. And I don't know. I just think it's the way, you look at the politics, you look at your life, you're looking at your bills, you're looking at just raising your family, illness comes into the family, etc., and the stresses of life, and hence the drugs, the alcohol, etc., to suppress that. Am I correct in saying that?
There's no doubt, Sam. And just normal conversations on the phone. Sometimes people get short with each other. We're very mindful of that in our office. You know, when people call, they want to talk to a person. And how many times today is it press 1, press 2? You're on the phone for 5 minutes and getting nowhere. Getting nowhere.
That's frustrating. That is frustrating, okay? The fourth, which I hope everyone would oblige to, is keep the Sabbath day holy. Talk about that one. And how does that affect your health?
How many people rest on the weekend and much less Sunday? How many times I see people on Monday saying, where'd the weekend go? When we were growing up, again, I hate to sound old school, everything was closed on Sunday. You couldn't go anywhere, do anything.
You knew where your family was.
Exactly, exactly. And I think just keeping that as a day of rest, reflection, and trying to wind down, and recognizing that, you know, in biblical fashion, the Lord made the world in 6 days and he rested on the seventh. And maybe we should do the same.
I don't know if we'll ever see that because, you know, as you said, we're in such a crazy, hectic society, okay? But that rest for that one day and just being around your family or your friends or whatever meant a lot. I mean, we knew we had nowhere to go except so we would sit down and talk with my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, etc. And the neighbors, you know, you get a chance to see the neighbors, how they doing, etc. And it was a calmer life, wasn't it?
It was. You'd had Sunday picnics. And,
yes.
You know, again, everyone plans because they have schedules which are just overwhelming today.
You know, we would have Sunday dinners, like your families. You know, and those Sunday dinners, we look forward to them. I would give my left arm just to have that Sunday dinner with my parents and my uncles and my aunts and parties where we had a great time. They meant so much. And we had our, oh boy, Italian dinner with, you know, meatballs and sauce flying over. I mean, but it was wholesome, wasn't it?
Not only wholesome, but we took time. How many people actually take time to sit down and eat? Today it's rush, fast foods, and when you sit down for a meal, we sat down, it could be an hour or more.
Yeah, and enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it.
Folks,
right.
I'm talking to Dr. Phil Benyo. You know him. He's the star of It's Your Health on here at SSP TV. And the title of today's topic is The 10 Commandments Can Improve Your Health. And I think when we come back and we start going into the other ones, you'll see how it can improve your health. You know, just the fact that it could calm you down a little bit is a health factor, I think, in itself. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. First of all, I want to thank all of you people I see around town, and they come up and you come up to me and tell me about the show and how much you appreciate it. I really appreciate that, and all the other shows, particularly for our inspirational mass that runs on Sundays. For those of you who are shut-ins or can't get out, I appreciate the fact that you're enjoying them. Remember, 24/7, you can watch all of our shows, ssptv.com. We're on HT now if you're Service Electric Cablevision, which is channel 513, and Comcast in Pottsville 190, and Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and Wilkes-Barre, Mountaintop, and Kingston, channel 92, Saturdays and Sunday evenings, and of course Lackawanna County now every Sunday, Saturday mornings 8 to 12 on channel 190. We're very happy to have a lot of people in the Lackawanna County watching our shows. My guest today, folks, Dr. Phil Benyo, and we're talking about the 10 Commandments. No, it's not a religious show, but the 10 Commandments can improve your health. Okay, so now we went through 4. Now we're to the most important one. I just told my son, I have to wait for my daughter to honor your father and your mother.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the commandments, the first 4 commandments are really God's commandments, and the rest have to do mainly with human relationships. And in my line of work, there used to be an old saying that one mother can raise 5 kids. 5 kids can't take care of one mother. And as our parents age, a lot of them are kind of left to their own devices. They're left alone. Some family members are, spread out all over the country. And in the olden days, again, Sam, you put on an extra room in your home, and that's where your mother and father stayed, and maybe your grandmother and grandfather. But today our elderly are being, I hate to use the word abandoned, but in their golden ages, they're not as golden as we would like.
It's so true. You see it every day, okay, because you visit nursing homes and assisted living homes. I just feel so sorry for those people who are abandoned, their kids. What does it take sometimes, Philip, to pick up the phone and call your father or call your mother, okay, and just say, hey, Dad, I can't see you, or Mom, how you doing? They don't know how that feels, to them. See, when they have children, they don't know, they love their children, so they think their parents don't love them as much as you love your children, and they abandon them. Some people will sit and watch television for 3 hours and not even call their father or their mother to see how they're doing, and some of them try to avoid them, okay? That's so sad.
It is priceless, and you wouldn't be where you were if it wasn't for your parents and how much they sacrificed for you through the years. And it's sort of a sin to see some of our elderly getting buried alive, if you will.
Boy, that's a good term. My mother said to me when we were growing up in parties, well, she says, Butchie, I can't give you a lot of toys, etc., but I'll give you one most important thing, in love. I'll give you love. So how priceless could that be?
Priceless.
It's so sad. And here again, when it's talking about your health factor, when you're inhibited, you're not going and talking to your mother or your father. Okay, I think that plays on you a little bit. The fact that you can't. What could a father and mother have done other than beat you when you were a kid, etc. And what father and mother didn't get slapped in the fanny with their strap, that you cannot even give them a call, okay, or even try to avoid them, okay. What a slap in the face to those poor parents.
And we see it all the time. I don't think a day goes by when I don't see an elderly mother or father who's depressed or anxious. And what's the source of it? They feel abandoned. There's stress in their family. They're not getting along with their sons or daughters. It's just, I can't explain it. It's just really hurtful.
Well, and you see it every day. Okay, you see that sadness in those people. Could you imagine if you were talking about being helpful, making people, if they wanted a reason for living? Some people just give up. Geez,
and I often tell patients, you don't need this medication. You need something that a pill can't give you. You need some love and respect.
Well, thank God there are a lot of people that substitute for the children. And once again, I say to those children who have parents who are avoiding them and will not talk with them, shame on them. Someday they will have to answer for that, okay? And they will pay the price for that when their children do the same thing to them, okay? And the old thing turns around. Maybe I'm being a little heavy here, but the point is, that's what what would you give today, Philip, to spend 15 minutes with your father or your mother?
Unbelievable.
Okay.
I often think, boy, I wish they could just be around.
Yeah. The sixth, you shall not murder. Well, how does that improve your health?
Again, I think it goes back to not hurting anyone. Murder is obviously the extreme of that. But again, there's so much anger out there, and there's so much self-abuse that brings in the whole category of drugs, drug abuse, what we're going through in this area with drugs in our young folks. Well, why is this happening? There's got to be a way of stopping this, and that's part of hurting yourself, and obviously, a violation of the Sixth Commandment.
When I'm giving talks someplace or talking to groups, I always talk about when I was doing an entrepreneur course at King's College, the seniors, I said, in life you have to, at least my opinion, you have to have a foundation. And when you have a foundation, if you have a family that's going to Mass or going to church or whatever, Protestant, Jewish or whatever, they're building a substance, they're building a foundation. Well, now not that they won't be bad, but a majority of them that have faith in their homes and a substance, their kids won't go, they know better not to go with the bad people because they're being brought up the proper way. Am I correct in saying that?
Sam, it's old school, and I'm sorry, there was nothing wrong with old school. It got us where we were.
Seventh, you shall not commit adultery. How does that, I know how that keeps you healthy. Your wife or your husband won't kill you.
That's right, we go back. But again, I think that from a health standpoint, you look at sexually transmitted diseases, hepatitis, things along those lines, bad behaviors. It goes without saying that you should, if you have a spouse, be faithful to them. That's kind of basic.
So the health, well, you have people who sometimes cheat on their wives or their husbands, and I don't know if that's a healthy thing. Okay, it could be instant gratification for a degree, but then after a while you have to live with that. That's a good thing about Catholic Church. You go to confession, see? And the priests are out there saying, hey, look, welcome back, come back, etc., which is interesting. Now, that's one way you should, in keeping your health here, not committing. Now, how do you stay healthy if you don't steal? If someone don't shoot you, of course, by stealing stuff. You shall not steal.
Well, stealing is such a negative thing, and it's such a broad category. And again, you wonder why people are doing this. They steal from perhaps their employers, their friends, family. There must be some secondary reason for that. Are they angry? Is there substance abuse? Can't they make ends meet? Are they gamblers? So again, it's one of those negative types of things that will steer you down the road of more problems, especially health-wise.
So a person who is stealing, okay, you say, well, how does that affect your health? How does that affect your health again?
Well, again, it's a negative thing. You're gonna get caught one of these days, and you're hurting people along the way. It's just not part of building a healthy society.
My guest, Dr. Phil Benyo, folks, it's not a religious show. It's the Ten Commandments and how the Ten Commandments can improve your life when you think about it. And for those of you who are getting a refresher course on the Ten Commandments, some people just live by the Ten Commandments and you're in good shape, and it will improve your health. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying with us, folks. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, in the Service Electric Cablevision, we're on channel HD now, 513 as well as 13. My guest today, Dr. Phil Benyo, the star and host of It's Your Health on SSP TV, channel 13 and 513, talking about the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments can improve your health. All right, we're at number 9. You shall not bear false witnesses against your neighbor.
Well, I think that's pretty straightforward, Sam. You got to tell the truth. The truth will set you free, as someone had once said. But again, when you're engaging in negative behaviors, negative activities, that leads to hypertension, high pulse, perhaps insomnia. You may end up starting to extinguish some of these bad behaviors with the use of drugs or alcohol. So again, just stay on the straight and narrow. What does it hurt to tell the truth? Where do you get by making things up or steering someone in the wrong direction?
Sometimes, this is sad, because sometimes people are jealous or envious of somebody, and what they try to do is they try to do anything that they can to bring that person down because they don't have what that person has. Here again, growing up in Partysville, it was fabulous because when someone got a new car, we were so excited for them. If someone got a job, we were thrilled. My father, we were thrilled. We were always happy, when we heard successes. Sometimes today people don't think that way.
Yeah, not only that, again, you can drive your car looking forward, or you can drive your car looking in the rearview mirror. And there are so many times when we see patients who think they should have turned left instead of turned right in their life, and they're not happy. Their glass is half empty, when in point of fact it's half full, and they don't recognize it and they don't believe it. Again, we're looking at trying to turn negative emotions, which bring you down, lead to anxiety, depressions, bad behaviors, and turn the, as they say, lemons into lemonade.
Isn't it so true? So 9, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbors. The other one is you shall not covet.
Again, it falls back to looking back on your life and saying, I should have did this, I should have did that, I wish I had that, or I wish I had this. We go through life not recognizing the bounties that we've had. You've woken up this morning and God gave you another life. We're here just for a visit, Sam. I'm telling you, I sign 3 death certificates a week. That's my line of work. We're here for a visit. Make the best of it. Don't be thinking about these negative things.
That is so true. I don't know why people want to live in the past. Especially if you had some terrible things that happened in your life, whether it was with a spouse, whether it was with your children, or whether it was with a friend. Why live that I talk to some people, that guy still, I was in that, and I say to myself, why don't you get up in the morning and be a little positive and just thank God that you have another day? And listen, what happened yesterday, 2 years, 3 years, we all have these. There's people that, I probably got mad or got them upset with me, etc. But that's the past. They lived the past. It's so terrible.
Going back to my days at Andy's Market on 10th and Locust, I was in the meat counter, and someone would come into the store and tell my father, listen, so-and-so died, send him a $10 meat tray. And they would leave, and my father would turn to me and say, why didn't they send him the meat tray when he was alive? Why wait till someone dies?
Yeah, and you know what? You talk about health here again. Thou shalt not covet, and say you have that negative thing in your life. Either you hate somebody and you live that every day, and you can't wait to talk to someone to talk about the person you hate. Okay,
exactly.
And it just sucks all that energy out of you.
Right.
Here again, maybe prayer. Maybe, living a life and just saying a prayer every day may help. I don't know.
Well, Sam, when I was preparing for this, I have to be honest, I didn't know all the 10 Commandments. I kind of forgot about them. And in reviewing them, it was just a great reflection and taking inventory on one's life. And I think your show will provide a great service to the community. There's somebody out there who's going to be looking at the 10 Commandments, going to be reading them and say, hey, you know what, maybe I will re-look at them, revisit them, and maybe relive them.
Well, listen, here again, it's not a Catholic thing. It's just fact that it's just a good thing, okay? When What's-Her-Name was on my show, he talked about different things, and a guy called me the next day. He thanked me for having What's-Her-Name on the show. He says, why, after your show, and hopefully this is the same thing, he said, I walked 3 blocks. I think I told you this. I walked 3 blocks, knocked on my brother's door, and said, we have to talk. And I hadn't spoken to my brother in 4 or 5 years. 3 blocks. His brother lived there. Didn't speak to his brother in 3 to 5, and felt that and when he saw the show at What's-Her-Name, just thinking about it, he said, look, this is crazy. This is my brother. This is my, etc. So, I'm glad you suggested this, Philip. Once in a while you come up with a good idea.
That's right.
Do I have to come on your show to improve your ratings as well? But your wife does that and your son does that.
That's not a bad idea. We'll have you on as a geriatric example, okay?
I'm a
How to age gracefully.
Yeah. Folks, when I go for my physical, he'll tell you, I'm dying, I've had this, this is amazing. Well, anyway, folks, his show is It's Your Health. I'm sure most of you know it. It's also on the website. And you really do give a lot of good information, seriously. It's very helpful. because I listen to it every Saturday. I watch the show Saturdays. Tell your wife I said hi. She's a lovely person. And of course, your son who's beating him up every day. That's good. Now you have another son coming on,
Yeah,
right?
Daniel, he's finishing his third-year residency at Hershey Medical Center. He'll be joining us. And you know, they had this article about Father's Day.
Yeah.
And everyone was telling me on the weekend how great it was. And I said, you didn't see the boys working. It was the old man working on the weekend. I mean, what changes here?
Thanks, Phil, for coming to the show. Folks, remember 24/7, you can watch all of our shows, ssptv.com. The 10 Commandments can improve your health. See you next time.